Sorry. Okay, Tiana. We'll start out because when we had that pre-observation thing, before I came in, you said that you wanted me to watch for your behavior strategies and things you're doing to see what you could do differently for next year, since you're moving from 4-5 this year to K1 next year.
Right.
And you thought that I might have some strategies you could use. So what generally do you use right now?
So we champ. So you champ expectations before every lesson, just so they're aware of what we're doing, what materials they'll need, kind of who they're working with, whether it's an independent activity or they can work with a partner.
Sure.
And just having structure prior to. So I've had a couple new students, so within the past 2 weeks, so they're still kind of learning, but we're able to kind of jump in because all my other kiddos kind of know where things are located. We also have hand signals, so if they need things, they can just show a hand signal and I don't have to call on them or stop instruction to do something. And if they've been, I just think classroom management has a lot to do with behavior and relationships. So I think that's huge with behavior. And then some of them have behavior charts. So I think classroom management, champs, having everything consistent where it's located, what they need, is the basis of what I do.
Definitely. So when I was in here observing you, I just wanted to go over some of the things that I saw you doing. Okay. As far as behavior management goes. Okay. So I saw you champ the activity when all the students came in. They sat down. I saw you champ the activity and tell them the conversation, what their participation would be, what the activity was going to be, what kind of movement. So I got to see you do that when everybody came in. You also had a student who wasn't actually in your group that came in and just kind of reminded you that he needed a behavior chart, which was kind of cool, that he's to the point of self-monitoring, which is awesome because they're in 5th grade, getting ready to go on. So it was really cool to see that you guys have been doing that so much that he kind of came in and asked for that. Yeah, it was really cool. You asked them about what they were doing as they were working, and you were like, I put you on a lesson right to where they're able to monitor what they're doing themselves, which I think is awesome considering, like I said, they're older and they're getting ready to move on. You mentioned your relationship with them. Like you said, you felt like relationship was important. And there was one student that you were like, so-and-so is always moving around, moving from the table to the back table, and that's all right. So just you knowing your students, it's obvious you really know them. And you've built a relationship with them because you trust them and they trust you for you to be like, did I put you on a lesson? And they're going to tell you if they're really on a lesson or not. And I definitely felt like that was important for your all's management because it was super quiet when I was in here, and I mean they were they were doing a great job. They were all on task, and you were able to kind of make your way around the table and spend a little bit of time with each of them. So I thought that was awesome. You're really consistent in your rules. You stated all the rules at the beginning, but then you consistently enforced them throughout the time that I was in here. At one point you were like, remember to raise your hand if you get it wrong so I can look at it. You were really consistent with that. Nobody called out. I mean, it was totally under control and I liked it. But where I was saying some of the students they're ready to self-monitor. They're 4 or 5. You've been with them all year and they're ready to self-monitor. And I think that for next year, that's going to be it'll be a difficult transition, I think. I mean, you're going to do a great job, but it's hugely different, especially for kindergartners, especially kindergartners who haven't been an early start before, and they haven't had really that structured environment. It's just going to be difficult for them to sit in their seat and things like that. And I mean, you gave a lot of verbal reinforcement throughout your lesson that I saw. So just some suggestions of things that I thought that I could come in and we could have a session on me training you with some of this stuff.
Okay.
And a lot of this is things but like shorter intervals for reinforcement.
Right.
Like where these guys are able to go 5-10 minutes without it just working. It'll be more like, oh, great job sitting in your seat.
Right.
Oh, great job sitting in your seat.
Reinforcement.
You know.
Yeah.
And a lot of tangible reinforcement too, especially for those
K1.
Ks coming in. One thing that I use is just to start off so that they're able to self-monitor later. It's a good place to start is using a varied reinforcement schedule.
Okay.
So that it's not, there are certain behaviors where you do want to reinforce, like after every time. But like for work completion, I try not to reinforce after every completion because then they'll rush through their work because they know they're going to get reinforcements done.
So would you not do verbal or tangible for work completion, like a varied, or do you think?
I do verbal. I do some verbal praise, but as far as like tangible reinforcement, I do that on a varied schedule so that they don't
expect it.
Yeah, and they won't rush through their worksheet so that they can immediately get to the treat that they want or whatever it is that they're working for. So I use these things called motivators. Okay. Have you ever used them before? Mm-hmm. Okay, so they are actually for smoking cessation. Okay. And you wear them on your pants, and you can set it to like a interval time, like go off randomly every 5 minutes. And then so the way I use it is I put it on the table. Every time it goes off, if they're working at that moment,
then you reinforce.
Then I reinforce. If it goes off, it's a really good reminder for them, like, oh, your motivator went off, but you're not working. It's kind of a reminder without you having to provide more verbal input to them, It's kind of like...
So is that something that you would tell them or that they would just catch on to?
You have to explicitly train in order for them to build that connection.
Okay. So be explicit in explaining.
Definitely.
When
like
goes off.
This motivator is going to go off, and every time it goes off, we're going to assess whether you're working or not. Okay. And if you are, I'm going to reinforce you with, a token or a bubble or whatever chart you're using. Right. I'm going to reinforce you with that, and then when you reach your, when you get 5, then you'll get, that kind of thing. Because I pair that with my 5-point token board.
Okay, because you guys have,
because we use a 5-point token board.
Yes.
Especially for my younger ones. We have like a 5-point token board. So, and it kind of makes it does make it pretty fast at first because I would do it on like a 30-second random interval. So it may go off in 5 seconds. It may go off in 28 seconds.
Yeah, and you just build it up.
Yeah. And then over time, and now I have a lot of students who are on like a 5 or 10 minute random interval. But they're really cool, and it was something I wanted to show you. Okay. That maybe you could get from like the warehouse that you could use for next year because it really helps build those self-monitoring skills.
And then when we meet again, can you bring your 5 tokens?
Yes, that was something else. The 5-point token boards, I use them all day long, but they're also really cool to use in conjunction with an all-day behavior chart. Yes. And then you also, so like during an individual lesson, you could use like the 5-point token board. But I know that in order to build your kids up to using the big bubble behavior charts, that we could talk about like another one that might be better for like K, but it would look sort of similar. But it would be, it could have like smiley faces. But I have a couple of things that I thought I would show you. And I'll bring the 5-point token board and then the motivator, because I think that that's something that you would like using, and I think they have some more at the warehouse that we could probably get for you.
And then, so the varied reinforcement, does that help with avoiding satiation?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's my biggest concern. Like, we're 4 or 5, I don't do a lot of tangible food rewards because you don't want them to be reliant. You want them to be intrinsically motivated to kind of work. Yeah. So, I mean, I know K1's different, so I'm like, I don't want to overly give them things and then it become expected, just because I think the culture of our school is to kind of, here's a treat, you did something, here's a...
No, and I don't absolutely. And you don't, you don't want them to grow tired of that in the first month of school. Yes. And another way that I kind of help with that right now is I do use edible reinforcements, but I definitely use non-edible reinforcements as much as possible. Okay. Like out of seat breaks and things.
Okay.
I try to make their points really motivating by making them things that they really like.
And like they want to work for.
Yeah, okay. You know, whatever.
So doing like an interest survey and
definitely.
Those relationships are going to be big. Okay.
Absolutely. And I also, it's on the token board, but like the visual expectations are like on the board.
Okay.
So I'll like print one and make it for you, pre-made, so that when we meet the next time and we're going over it, it'll just be here for us.
Works.
So, cool.